clients ask us, what is the thought process? Tell us about your path to get here. And I wish we had a very clear and direct graphic we can give you. And this is the closest we could get. This is a brain. Maybe it's one of our brains. And here are some things that we keep in mind when we're doing an audit. The first is about expansive mindset. I've mentioned this before, and I think that is the best word to really describe my audit process, is that we're always looking to move beyond okay and fine and tolerance. We're looking to see what identities are not present, who isn't represented. What would someone who is not me and doesn't have my identities say about something? And sometimes we catch them all. And then sometimes I'll look back at something I did last year and I'll say, I think this could have been better. I think there's something I know today that I didn't know back then that would make it better. And something that I find incredibly beautiful about expansive mindset is that expansive is limitless. And so there's always going to be something that we can grow and change and evolve and shift because people are always doing that. The culture is always doing that. And so I never think we did an audit and it's done. We did an audit and it's done for now. And if you bring us back next year, we'll find something else and a new way to expand that. Many of our clients ask about framework, which is a great question. And many folks ask about framework, but they think it's boring, so they don't really want to know. But I'll give you a little 101 about framework that we find applicable to our work. The first is identity-based. So we really, really spend a lot of time reflecting about how we show up to the work with the identities that we possess, and then also the identities of your team and who is not present. So we always approach everything from identity framework because people matter, and the people who are reading and reviewing your documents matter and have very specific lived experiences that shape the perspectives that we have, which is why auditing in a team is fantastic, because what I may not see, Jasmine and Bren are able to, and maybe what they don't see is something that I'm able to elevate. Something that is also never too far from reach from the Nova Collective is Tima Okun's white supremacy culture. I will say this, white supremacy culture is a bit of a spicy tool if your organization is not ready to dive specifically into the language white supremacy. But there are some tenets within this that you may be able to pull out and slowly introduce into some of those leaders who are not ready to get into the full discussion. But for those who have never heard of white supremacy culture, this article talks about pieces of white supremacy that permeate all of our social, political, interpersonal reactions that are steeped in whiteness being supreme. And there are ways that all of us buy in or perpetrate levels of white supremacy without even knowing. So this is a document that we often come back to. And for our clients who are ready to start pushing that conversation forward and think strategically about how they're making change, it's an incredible piece to look back to. And then for me personally, I love always thinking about Kimberly Crenshaw's theory of intersectionality. Kimberly Crenshaw came up with this theory to describe specifically the experience of being a Black woman. She is a woman, which is a marginalized identity, but also being Black. And the lived experience of having those two marginalized identities is so unique and complex about how she sees the world. I think sometimes we water down or distill intersectionality to apply to many more things than what Kimberly Crenshaw actually intended for it to be meant to. But I think it brings up a good point of that everyone in their combination of intersecting identities is a complex and unique experience. And that's something to think about when you're interacting with people and you're getting feedback when folks feel uncomfortable or they're reporting a bias or talking about a harm that happened to them, that it looks different based on people's lived experience. And then lastly, this is something that is a personal, what are they called? Resolution that I always try to work forward to, but I think Bren does a really great job of, is about imagination. We often talk about Octavia Butler seeing a world that does not exist, but also feels very familiar of something that could happen, is that at the Nova Collective, we do believe a better world is possible. And it sounds very cornball, but in order to get there, sometimes it means using your imagination to dream or think of DEI efforts that have not been imagined or that you haven't seen before to get to that next place. I think sometimes we feel really beholden to the resistance and the sadness of moving across these oppressive systems. And I feel that. It's not a sleigh. And also there is a place that we need to tap into for play and seeing a better, brighter future. And what that needs is all of us in our imagination and creativity. And so that's a little piece. Thank you. A little piece of artist minds.